Well, good morning to everyone. Many faces that I've seen through the week, and a few new faces. We just, as most of you know, finished a 4-day sesshin, and not that anybody's counting. That's roughly 33 periods of zazen, 3 of yoga, a dozen meals, innumerable interviews. Service a few times. A lot goes into it, and in our closing circle, which is traditional at the end of sesshin, I hopefully have done a good job of thanking everybody, like Ken and Andrea, who led yoga sessions, and Akasha, who was Cheatin, and Jikido, and Chalet, who cooked for the small crew here at the house, and then my Jisha and Eno and Doan
and coordinator
Kazumi, Melissa. Boundless gratitude, and to everyone who showed up. And we had a really good, strong group sitting, and some of you came and went as your life demanded, and others of you, this time around, were unable to make it. And I want to make sure that those of you who are not in the sesshin feel included and thanked as well, because this Zen Center, this Sangha, Yokoji, the larger Sangha, is all the vessel, all the net that holds all of this, so that those that were able to commit the time could do it. Everybody keeps it going, and everybody. Winston, you were in and out a few times. And thank you. Art and Marsh, who sat Thursday morning, Don Zazen, thank you for being there. And we all felt that support. So just a big thank you to everyone. We also, this is the 4th Dharma talk of the week. We were blessed with having Tenshin Roshi, my teacher from Yokoji Zen Mountain Center, give the Friday morning talk, and what a talk it was. And then that was followed by Jokai Sensei on Saturday, and an equally inspiring talk from my perspective, at least. Not only did that give me a chance to reflect and not be the one talking all the time, but it gave me a chance to listen, and it gave all of you some exposure to some true masters of the craft. People that have dedicated their lives to this practice, to this practice, just as you have dedicated time this week and this morning to this practice. So huge thank you to everyone. On Thursday, I spoke on case 32 out of the Book of Equanimity, which was Kyozan's state of mind. And, that was looking at subjective versus objective mind. And we took that talk into the thinking mind, and how the thinking mind often leads us, if not astray, at least places other than where we are. And that Sesshin and Zazen offer us the opportunity to see that and to catch that and to come back to where we are. There are a lot of people in this Sangha, the extended Sangha, and I know that some people had circumstances occur so that they could not participate in Sesshin to the extent that they wanted to. And I would just put out there that, as Tenseigen Roshi said to Tenshin Roshi, when Tenshin was a young monk, my life is Sesshin. And some of you heard that. But it's a different way to hold our lives and this practice. But anyway, I spoke on Kyozan's state of mind. And this morning I said I was going to move to another koan where we had Kyozan interacting with his teacher just to get another look at the same guy. And I also said we were going to look at not knowing is most intimate. And in that I was mistaken. I conflated two things because I was looking at which one I was going to do. We're going to do not knowing is the most intimate. So we'll let Kyozan rest for a little bit. All right. Just for those of you who are scholars and keeping track. Galen. Galen, it's good to see you. I'm glad you were able to make it back for this morning. So this is case 20 out of the Book of Equanimity. Wonderful book. Often these books on the koans, we recommend that you don't, at least early in your practice, spend a lot of time reading. Because the practice is really about direct experience, and all these words and phrases and talks by people like me can, in a way, get in the way of the way. Because you get caught in the ideas and concepts rather than the direct experience of what is so right here before you at any given moment in time. Having said that, this is just an excellent book, commentary by Jerry Shinshin Wick. If you get a chance, you might pick it up. And sometimes Tenshin Roshi speaks a lot out of this book, and so it's sometimes handy to have it by your side to read. But anyway, case 20, Jesus not knowing is the most intimate. The preface to the assembly. A profound talk of entering the principle derides the three and rends the four. The broad way of Choan runs 7 vertically and 8 horizontally. Suddenly opening your mouth to speak decisively and lifting your foot to tread firmly, you should hang up your traveling bag and bowl and break your staff. Tell me who is such a person. And it looks like Brenda's not with us this morning. She was with us all week. She's in Boulder, and I know she had a household of family. So we'll make sure she gets the recording so that I can reference her at one point here. The main case. Attention. Master Jizo asked Hogan, "Where have you come from?" "I pilgrimage aimlessly," replied Hogan. "What is the matter of your pilgrimage?" asked Jizo. "I don't know," replied Hogan. "Not knowing is the most intimate," remarked Jizo. At that, Hogan experienced great enlightenment. Not knowing is the most intimate, remarked Jizo. Right now, this is appreciatory verse. Right now, investigation replete, it's the same as before. Utterly free from minute obstacles, one comes to not know. Short's short, long's long. Cease pruning and grafting. According with high, according with low, each is even and content. A family's manner of abundance or thrift is used freely according to circumstances. Fields and lands excellent, sportive, one's feet go where they will. The matter of 30 years' pilgrimage, a clear transgression against one's pair of eyebrows. So some of that may seem a little obscure, and we'll unpack some of it. And some of it I think is just beautifully obvious, or maybe it just feels that way after Sesshin. Fields and lands excellent and sportive, one's feet go where they will. If nothing else, as we leave today, our feet go where they will. The fields and lands are excellent. So in the main case, Jizo asks Hogan, where have you come from? And if you remember in the case we covered earlier this week, the question is similar. Where were you born, I think? We'll look just to get it right. Where were you born? Remember, where were you born? Albuquerque or U province or whatever it is, right? The answer was straight up. The answer here is a little bit different. And I talked about how in this body of work, these Zen cases throughout history, this question comes up a lot. Where have you come from? Where were you born? And the answers come in different ways. And sometimes it's like, I drove from San Pedro. And sometimes it is more profound of, well, this is where I'm at this point in time. This is where I'm coming from. This is where I'm coming from. Here, Hogan says, I pilgrimage aimlessly. Now, there's a couple of ways to take that question. I pilgrimage aimlessly. I mean, we often think of aimlessly as just like, kind of random and purposeless, right? Jizo goes on to say, what is the matter of your pilgrimage? Why are you on pilgrimage? What is it that you're up to? Is there something you are out to attain? And Hogan replies, I don't know. Now, does he really not know? It's a good question to ask. Does he really not know? Or is this, again, a form of interchange with the teacher? And Jizo comes back with not knowing is most intimate. Now, a lot of us have been working on koan this week, or just diving into the practice deeply for the first time, or looking at things occurring in our life that are creating fear or anger or anxiety, and what do I do with this? And in that inquiry, there can be a lot of not knowing. There can be a lot of not knowing. And these questions, whether they're koan or life questions, which are koan, by the way, can present a very big stop or block or getting stuckness to them. And it's like, I want the answer. I need the answer. I want to know. I need to know this, and I can't find it. I can't find it, And then sometimes it manifests itself when somebody comes into the interview and they just, I don't know. I decided to come in to interview anyway, but I don't know. I don't get it. And that's part of the practice. And to keep going. But I'd like to introduce another side of not knowing. And this is covered somewhat in Suzuki Roshi's, or covered a lot in Suzuki Roshi's Beginner's Mind, another great master from Japan who established the practice up in the Bay Area decades and decades ago. But Hogan says, I don't know. And Jizo comes back with not knowing is the most intimate. I like to look at not knowing as the absence of knowing. There's a subtle distinction I'm making there. There's I don't know versus like I don't have the answer. I don't know. But this not knowing I'm looking at now is just the absence of knowing. The absence of knowing. Because knowing can be a huge burden. Needing to know can be an even bigger burden. And then there's what we think we know and how we project it forward, which not only becomes a burden, but could be the very definition of suffering if you want to look at it that way. This is going to happen, and then this is going to happen, and I know this is going to happen, and this is a natural consequence of that, and that leads to this, and this leads to that, and all of a sudden I'm broke, and I don't have anywhere to live, and my life is in ruin, and everything up to this point is just shattered and destroyed and gone. But there's a big chain of knowing there, or wanting to know, or thinking we know, that creates that suffering. And if you string a lot of knowing together, it becomes what we call story. And by the way, we know backwards too, right? We do a lot of knowing backwards, which becomes story about something that happened. I don't remember who it was that I was talking to this week, but I said, look at the notion of enemy. I'm talking about like personal enemy, right? Keep it out of the political realm for the moment. But personal enemy. I know that I have kept personal enemies alive far beyond when they were even alive. Lori says pathetic. But I, through this thinking mind, can keep an enemy alive forever, and they're off doing whatever they're doing, I'm probably not even that important to them anymore. They may have even forgotten who I am. I mean, there may have been a moment of conflict. There may have been a moment of wrong, right? And in the best of worlds, we deal with it and we're done with it. But in the unbest of worlds, a fully constructed world, to use the opposite of what Roshi was talking about. He talked about unconstructedness. Okay, in a fully constructedness place, I can keep that enemy alive and my anger alive and my hatred alive for as long as I want. And I can do it mindlessly. That's a form of knowing that is absolute suffering. And it can keep suffering alive all around us. Right? Koan brings this up sometimes, and at the beginning or in the middle or near the end, whatever the end is. It seems to me there is no end to this practice or this study. But, it's like, I don't get it. I don't get it. This is the stupidest thing I've ever engaged in. I know all of us have felt that at some point. This is really stupid. I'm not going to do this. I don't know what these people are about. I don't know why they do it. This is stupid. I had a wonderful moment with Tenshin Roshi a couple weeks ago where I was feeling rather stupid and not knowing, or let me put that better, feeling rather stupid and I don't know-ness. And I magnified that into, well, if I don't know to this degree, how can I put on robes and sit in front of anybody? And completely spun out on this over the course of about 24 hours. And I went into Tenshin and I said, can you explain this language to me? Because I decided that it was the language that was at fault. I didn't know because the translation was bad, or the words were, and he looked at me, and then he used it in his next Dharma talk, by the way, which, when your teacher uses something that he puts you up against in the next Dharma talk and you're sitting there, it's like, But anyway, I said, can you explain this language to me? Because I think it's just the language I'm hung up in. And he came out with this Dogen quote, which I think he shared this week, of, there are those that say the language of the cases of the great cases of time are incomprehensible and inscrutable. Those who believe this are those who have not seen it. Okay, he said that to my face while I'm sitting in Dokusan. So I went out with my tail between my legs and completely like, oh, I really don't know. And not only do I don't know, my teacher knows I don't know. And anyway, I kept sitting and kept working with everybody and kept running the chainsaw. And eventually I came out of it, and here we are, and so I offer that up. But that letting the I don't know get its hooks into you, or putting your hooks into it and turning that into a belief and a story, can create a lot of suffering, I can tell you firsthand. So whether you're on your first or your 2000th koan, that opportunity is there. To let it get its hooks in, or to, sit in the not knowing. Because in that unconstructedness, in the thought, in the space between the thoughts. So Amber, you're newer to this, right? And it's just like counting the breaths and seeing the thoughts. In the space between the thoughts, that's pure not knowing, absence of knowing. Because in that space between thought or before thought, there's nothing to know. There is no knowing. There is no not knowing. That is most intimate. That is most intimate. Because in those moments, we are really here. We are here in our most infinite, expanded, boundless, skinless, beliefless, opinionless state of being. The absence of knowing. So when we hit that wall with our life or our koan or our teacher or our practice or our work, I invite you to embrace it as the most intimate place possible. And that intimacy which we've built up over the week through Sesshin, I said to everybody this morning, you walk out of Sesshin, you walk into the Zendo, or into these Zoom windows, and not everybody was in Sesshin all week, right? How do you share that intimacy? How do you take that intimacy out into the world? How do you live that not knowing? How do you live that not knowing? We have a member that is experiencing some family trauma and drama this week, and it's very real. Very real. It's very, 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 very real. And sometimes we make a distinction between our practice and our lives, or what is sacred and what is not sacred. And I would caution against that distinction, especially coming out of Sesshin as well, right? It's like, oh, I did that. That was wonderful. That was amazing. I can't wait to do that again. Or maybe your knees are hurting enough to you're like, I can wait to do that again. but whichever side of it is, there's that distinction we immediately start to make. Sesshin is over. Time for steak and a beer. Enough of this vegan food. But we draw that line. Or something in our lives occurs and we're like, boy, I don't have time for this sacred stuff. I don't have time for this spiritual stuff, this Zen stuff. I'm overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. And listen carefully, because I am not saying don't take care of your family. I'm not saying don't take care of what needs to be taken care of. But I am gently reminding all of us that those are actually the moments when the practice can be most useful. Where we take a moment and come back to one. Where we take a deep breath and remember the space between knowing, before knowing, that intimate space that connects us to each of us and everyone else. From where we can derive true power and compassion and wisdom and the love to deal with whatever this situation is. And in that way, it's all sacred. It's all sacred. So avoid the temptation to go only in the Zendo, or only in Sesshin, or only in Zazen. Or I'm going to do Zazen and then I'm going to do my real life. What you want to do is really let it all integrate and flow so that that same boundlessness and seamlessness and skinlessness and unconstructedness begins to permeate everything. Because I won't guarantee much, because it's just a dangerous thing to do, but I will guarantee that things do work better that way. When you take this element of intimacy and unknowing out into the world, you will start to see it in the people around you. You will start to see things occur differently. And Shiro, who was cooking for us, had to take some time off yesterday and go out to her commercial kitchen. She rents a space in one of those, shared commercial kitchens, and she was cooking, and she's working on koan, and she, was on that edge of I get it, I don't get it, or do I get it? I don't know, And she just took it into her cooking in the commercial kitchen. So she's now outside of Sesshin, technically, right, from her point of view, and outside of the Zendo. She had been with us all week. And she just reported that. Now this sounds a little woo-woo, and Shiro, you're not on, but she's going to try to dial in. She said, this sounds a little woo-woo, but the kitchen appeared differently. The tasks appeared differently. Mm. Things that would have been really difficult for me to take care of were suddenly easier. I started to panic about not having enough tamari because there was just that much tamari in the bottom of the container. And then I looked again and realized that that was exactly the right amount of tamari. Now, is she making that up? Did it just all of a sudden become the right amount of tamari? Or it's like, that's what I've got, so it's the right amount of tamari? It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter, because that's the way life works. Life occurs. We get what we get. The next moment brings what it brings. It might as well be the right amount of tamari. Haven't we all spent years going, there's not enough tamari. There's never enough tamari. How come they have more tamari than I have tamari? Maybe tomorrow there will be more tamari. You know? I always feel victorious when I can make my wife of 31 years laugh still. And she's over there laughing. So
That's like a sister joke.
It's out there.
hey, I lived in the South.
My parents live in
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. You know, tamari occurs. Right? Tamari occurs. But, you know, Chalet said it was weird. It was like everything was okay. You know, and I was worried about getting back to the Zendo because I wanted to fix you dinner. And then I got back to the Zendo and Lori had used all the ingredients and made dinner. Because, you know, Chalet had all the ingredients in place and Lori knows how to make a kick-ass salad. So she just went at it, you know.
This is really good.
And Chalet was like, this is really good. You know, so there is that opportunity. And the intimacy of not knowing does not have to be confined to a koan or a certain room. Or, you know, when I go up to Yokoji, everything is taken care of. Right there I can really practice because somebody's cooking for me and somebody cleans during the day and they tell me what to do. And, you know, like there, that's Zen practice. You know? Yeah, that is Zen practice and it's nice. But you know what? Everything's taken care of. Pretty much. All the time. You know, how do I get up at 5:30 a.m. for Zazen? That's so early. Okay? So, you know, I hate to break it to you, but a clock is a concept. Hours are a concept. Time is a concept. I mean, yeah, the sun comes up and goes down. That's real. That's direct. Right? But, you know, 5:30 versus 4:30 versus 6:30. Like, we get so like, it's so early. And the alarm clock goes off and like, I don't want to get up. You know? You know, and then once a year the government changes the time on us and we go along with it. I mean, we might grumble a little bit, but you know, we're on daylight savings times now, right? Are you deliberately not getting up at the right time because somebody changed the clock on you? No, you grumble a little bit and then you change because it's fungible. You know, it's not actually real. God, how do I do that? How do I get up? You know? And yet, we turn the left knob on the shower and the hot water comes out and we're okay with that. That's cool. Everything's taken care of. You know, so, you know, as you approach this practice and you go, I can only do this here and I can only do this then and I can only do this now, right? Or when these conditions are met, the conditions are always met. You sit down and do Zazen anywhere, and we're always here. You know, and if you need 8 hours of sleep, get 8 hours of sleep. You know? Now, not everybody has to do this. You know, it's like it's up to you. It's a choice. It's a choice, and it's, you know, what you know, it's also a choice of what you want out of it. And I'm not suggesting that any degree of what you want out of it is right or wrong or better. I mean, this is perfect as it is, this community, right now. Just showing up and being part of Indra's net and supporting everybody else. And then Jacob, who kept sitting into the night after we rang the closing bell, like that's fine too. Might be a little nutty, but it's fine too. And I saw him sitting there, and I was like, yeah, I turned the camera back on and sat some more with him, and it was beautiful. And other people went to bed, and that's all good. And Shalay, the energy was so high after mooing last night, she said she couldn't sleep at all. By the way, I hope the mooing was okay for everyone. I know that some people were with family members, and I was worried that Brenda's family was going to come haul her out in a straitjacket or something, but all seemed well. We saw her this morning; she was still intact. So anyway, I ramble a bit, but remember that not knowing is most intimate. There's one other part of this koan that Jokai Sensei brought to my attention that I would like to bring to your attention, because it's really quite beautiful. And it comes to that word aimlessly, and the two ways to look at that, right? There's the two ways of looking at I don't know versus just the absence of knowing. Wandering aimlessly like a fool, I don't know. I don't know why I'm doing this, and it's aimless, purposeless, right? There's also a really beautiful quality to that of I am taking my practice out into the world with no specific gain in mind. I have no aim to it. There's no achievement, no attachment, no title. This is who I am. And wherever I go, my commitment is to be this practice, to be Buddha, to be the unconstructedness to the best degree I can, no matter what comes at me, no matter where I go. Not to achieve anything, but because that's who I am. And so when you look at Hogan's response that way, that takes it to a whole different place. And then the teacher's next question of what is the matter of your pilgrimage? And Hogan takes it even further. It's like, I don't know. That takes it to another place still. I don't need to know. This is who I am. With the thinking mind sloshing in the bowl set to the side. With things settling, with the intimate space in between the knowing. I'm cool with that. I'm just going to take that out there and see what happens. I don't need to know. And then Jesus' response in that context is, yeah, intimate, right? And I know those of us that spent some time together this week, or these months, or these years, or some of us these decades together, we know that intimacy without knowing. In the verse, utterly free from minute obstacles, one comes to not know. It's a beautiful practice. Thank you for all joining me and us all together in it. It's worth sharing, in my opinion. Be intimate. All right, that's what I've got. Open to comments, questions, whatever you have, related or not. Up to you. You can raise your digital hand or your physical hand, or simply unmute yourself if you want to say something, and we'll manage the Zoom. Ken.
Um, Thank you for your talk, Shiro, and for your efforts.
Oh, that's
That's
Ken. Can you start over again? I just had the speaker muted.
Thank you for your message today and for your efforts for the past half a week or so. And on the subject of not knowing, I would just like to take this opportunity, although it might sound coming from left field, is I want to thank our Sangha member, Jeff Irwin, for posting his most recent music video. I believe it's called Stop Killing. But the lyrics and the production value of that video was beyond knowing and not knowing. It was just, it stopped me cold. And I just thought, wow, am I glad I happened upon this video? And boy, am I glad I happened to be in a relationship with this person. So again, it just struck me that that whole video was in between the thoughts. And it just was powerful. So I thank you for that. And I thank all of you for hanging in for the week and participating and just being lights. Thank you.
Way to bring it, Ken. Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm really thank you. Thank you. And I appreciate all of you. And I'm sure you guys had an awesome session. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be there with you, but I could just sitting with you, I could just feel I don't know, whatever it is, the energy that you guys have gathered and created and fostered over the last week. So congratulations and thank you.
Love you, Jeff.
Love you.
Apparently, you were sitting with us.
I felt you.
Laurie's crying, which means she has something to say.
No. No, this is ugly crying.
Come on.
I don't know. What do I have to say? Andrea's here. That's really great. Look, we I don't know, I just have to say it again. We're gonna be together more often. Actually together more often. It's gonna happen. And I'm really excited about it. Miss you guys. Thank you.
I have something really quick to say.
Kazumi?
I first of all, this is one of my favorite koans of all time. I remember it way back from 10 years ago at the ocean. I had never thought of not knowing as being the most intimate. Like those are kind of two words I wouldn't have ever put together, but And the more I hear the koan and commentary on the koan, or unfolding of the koan, the more I realize that it is the only way to be truly connected is to not go. And I guess I'm thinking about people mainly, but it doesn't just have to be people. It could be anything you're experiencing. But the way to be most connected is to not come in with knowing anything about them. And this can apply to how I feel about my mom, or how I feel about the guy I've been on a few dates with, or how I feel about my roommate that I've been arguing with. It's like I don't have to come in with knowing. And this is such a perfect way to end sesshin, because I feel like what sesshin did, it was dissolved a bunch of the knowing. I already have like one apology I'm going to do and another thing I'm going to let go of completely, and a bunch of I love you phone calls. And it's like really because just the knowing was dissolved. So yeah, right?
I gotta jump on that.
Yeah, go.
I mean, going back to, sorry for being such an emotional mess. Going back to Joe Kai's Dharma talk yesterday, he talked about, we want to get rid of thoughts, but, realize that it's either preference, difference, or sameness. Right? So, I mean, these are like levels of consciousness. If we're in the level of preference, that's a very kind of root, and emotional level, right? This is how I see life. But that's not my choice. This is what I think life is. And then when we run into difference, that's where we get friction, right? That's where, we start going, oh, well, maybe I could be wrong, or maybe it's not going to work this way. And then when we can actually rise up to sameness, suchness, that's where we really belong. That's where we really feel free. I mean, that's where we can fly from. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Melissa left out the part of she's dated this guy just a couple of times, and neither one of them know where it's going, and she doesn't even know if there's a next date, but she's decided that's the highest level of intimacy.
This is the big.
I don't know if it's as good as sex, but it's
we're really good.
it's intimate anyway.
Don't go there.
I already did.
Too late.
I'm being scolded now.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Mark is in, there's a koan, how do you get out of a stone grave? And he rented an Airbnb that essentially is a stone grave that he had to clean every day in work practice. So intimate with those rocks?
The rocks, the spiders, the mice.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
I had lots of company here alone for session. It's funny how everything kind of just happens when it's supposed to, how it's supposed to. And, hearing you talk about Chalet saying, I know this sounds woo-woo, but I'm fairly sure that that's my motto when I go into interview. Like, I know that this is going to sound absolutely batshit crazy to you guys, but holy shit, this happened. And yep. And that's great. And what happened this time was the not knowing, which has been the whole thing. I came out here starting last Sunday, so I had a few days to just kind of be by myself. I went hiking and started reading Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, and that was the whole thing. The difference between the big mind and the small mind, and it all flowed in, and it was just so absolutely perfect. And somebody mentioned today that they didn't feel like they kind of had a place at the closing council, and it kind of hit me that I didn't really realize the people that were missing, because they weren't missing when we were sitting.
Yeah.
People that didn't make it, they were there. The screen was full the whole time, regardless of who it was full with. Like, everybody was there for me, and I really appreciate that. And I'm glad to see so many people here today. So thank you. Oh, and Moo.
Yeah, moo back at you.
Wonderful.
Hey, Ellen, she's talking. Hey, Ellen, I hate to put you on the spot, but I'll just ask, how are you doing? And what do you think about this wonderful, crazy Sangha?
Well, I think it's just wonderful. This was a wonderful talk, and I had some incredible experiences for the times that I was able to sit. And I really appreciate your holding this for us, holding this space. So thank you.
It's our pleasure, and thank you for taking part. And you're always welcome.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you. All right. Anybody else out there as we near the top of the hour? Looks like we're good. Winston, I see you came back after the mooing, so good.
Hi, thank you very much for the space. I enjoyed meditating with you guys this weekend.
Great, always good to see you. Okay, I'll stop calling on people because I know it gets annoying. But anyways, thank you so much, everybody, for being here and being part of it. For those of you that would like a fifth Dharma talk in as many days, Tenshin Roshi is on at 11:30, so in about 35 minutes. It is by no means a requirement for anyone, but I just, he's great. You heard his talk on Thursday. I just want you to know that that is available every Sunday at 11:30. Tenshin Roshi delivers a Dharma talk as well. So love you all, and thank you for creating this space.
Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to put an end to them. The dharmas are boundless. I vow to master them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to attain